Life. We can either be bystanders or creators. Now is the time to awaken to your divine identity and the power of the I Am within, to create a joyous and fulfilled life no matter what your circumstances are. There are answers to life's big questions, and there is a spiritual path that you can walk in this modern world that leads to soul liberation and ascension. In this dawning age of Aquarius, we're called upon to manifest the light of the mighty I Am presence to the world.
Hello and welcome to today's episode where we review the 7 rays and the 7 masters governing those rays and introduce their spiritual retreats. We've talked about different rays and how they represent the paths that we walk toward personal Christ mastery in this lifetime. And as a review, there are 7 masters who embody and define the law for each of the 7 rays. These masters are called chohans, which is a Sanskrit word meaning lord or governor. These masters are close to the physical realm and to us because they themselves have embodied on earth, and some quite recently, and they understand well the challenges of being in physical embodiment. They are our mentors and guides. The cool part of this is, as we look at the 7 rays and the retreats of the masters, you may begin to recognize the ray on which you are working. Often you can identify one ray that's primary, while another may be secondary, or you may relate to several rays. It's a fun study. But the most important aspect here is learning about the spiritual retreats that you can visit when you leave your body when sleeping. This week, we begin with the first ray, the blue ray, which represents God's will and God government. It's a ray of power, protection, and God government. Politicians, leaders of corporations, anyone in a leadership position may be serving on the blue ray, or at least would be demonstrating the qualities of the blue ray if they are successful in their leadership position. The chohan or chief of the first ray is the master Morya. You may be familiar with Morya. He first appeared to Madame Blavatsky during the founding of the Theosophical Society and has since guided many disciples and worked with many amanuenses since. His retreat focuses on the will of God in the etheric plane and is located over Darjeeling, India. He presides over the Darjeeling Council, which is a group of ascended masters of the Great White Brotherhood engaged in various spiritual activities. As I already mentioned, Morya's retreat and many masters' retreats are accessible to us during sleep when our spiritual body travels. In these retreats, you may attend classes, receive training, prepare for your next embodiment, or engage in world service with one or more of the masters. Morya is known as a strict disciplinarian because he embodies God's will and is in perfect alignment with that will. To better understand Master Morya and the purpose of his retreat, let me share what he once said about his retreat and the chelas who knock at the door. Chela is a Sanskrit word that means disciple. Morya uses it in reference to those who follow the Ascended Master's teachings and path. He says, chelas who knock on the door at Darjeeling are asked if they understand the urgency of world conditions and the crying need of the hour. If they have not yet gained that perspective, we recommend that they seek the disciplines of another retreat. For here at Darjeeling, we offer a crash program in chelaship and initiation on the path for those who are willing to follow implicitly the demands of their own Christ self and to respond with a flame that leaps and with eyes that sparkle with the kindling fires of soul discernment. We send forth devotees of the Divine Mother. We train emissaries who will represent the Brotherhood and who will go forth into the large cities of the world to teach the way of the sacrifice of the self as St. Francis of old for the greater glory of the Christ in all. And he continues, come then, fear not to approach the fire blazing on the hearth here in the library of our retreat. Come now and meditate upon the flames and see how the fiery salamanders dance to the music, to the will of God, that is the theme of your soul's reunion with a blueprint of your life, the grand design of destiny. See how the patterns blue and rose and gold woven in the oriental rug recall the tapestry of the mind of God woven in your soul. And then he says, there be some that come to our retreat for training, but their motives are not pure. They are self-seeking. They want power, not to the glory in God, but for the vainglory of the synthetic self that they refuse to surrender. They're told politely by the gatekeeper that those who enter must leave the slippers of the lesser self at the door. Those who are unwilling to take off the shoes of the shadow self may not walk upon this hallowed ground. With these words, we can understand what El Morya expects of his students who wish to enter his retreat, which is known as the Temple of Goodwill. There are a lot of lessons that we learn on the path of initiation, and they really begin at the very door of Morya's retreat in Darjeeling. Once again, he's a stern guru, but he has this interesting sense of humor. He keeps a very gruff-looking being as the gatekeeper at the entrance of his retreat. This gatekeeper has no appearance whatsoever of mastery, or being what you might think of as an ascended master, or even being worthy to be at this master's gate. He speaks gruffly, and he's not dressed well at all. Morya says, if those who knock at the door of the retreat have disdain for the gatekeeper, then they are not worthy to be received at his retreat. This teaches us not to judge others or harbor disdain, even for those we considered inferior, which is a valuable lesson in humility. Now, there are descriptions of the Master's retreats in the book The Masters and Their Retreats by Mark and Elizabeth Prophet. El Morya's Temple of Goodwill is described as a gleaming white Moorish-style building with a square form, minarets at each corner, and a large flame-shaped dome. Its thick walls and dome-shaped apertures evoke the strength of a medieval castle, and the retreat spans 4 floors. It is considered the headquarters of the inner world government. On the first floor is the main auditorium with adjoining council rooms where ascended masters gather. Adjoining the main auditorium is where public servants, world and community leaders, and holders of public office come to be schooled between their embodiments and also in their finer bodies during sleep. In fact, all people who serve on the first ray come to this retreat at one point or another in their embodiments. On the second floor is the private quarters of El Morya that include his study, libraries, and formal meeting rooms for the members of the Darjeeling Council. A large hall accommodates hundreds of ascended and unascended masters who convene to discuss international issues. On the third floor is the unfed flame of the will of God, an unfed flame that burns continuously and never goes out. An unfed flame exists in all of the Master's retreats. Adorned with a cosmic mosaic, this flame is a focus of divine geometry and power. On the third and fourth floors, there are many prayer meditation rooms where there are worship services that can be held up on the roof under the stars, and where there is an astronomical observatory. The first ray is also associated with Archangel Michael, the protector, who leads legions of light and offers us divine protection. However, we must invoke him. You can call to him and his legions of angels at any time. It's always wise to invoke his presence when you get into a vehicle, public or private, before you go to sleep at night, and any time you need his protection. A simple mantra that is all-encompassing to invoke his protection is, Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am His love protecting here. I am His love protecting here. I am His love protecting here. Remember, when you say, I am, you are invoking God anchored in your heart to create what you are speaking. When you say, I am His love protecting here, visualize blue fire energy expanding from your heart, encompassing wherever you are. You can call Archangel Michael's protection for your home, workplace, or around your loved ones, and even while you watch the news. I especially use this visualization when on a plane and waiting to take off. Michael's love expands from my heart to encompass the entire expanse of the plane. I also ask Archangel Michael to let the plane fly as a cell in his body. In emergency situations, you can simply call his name, Michael, or Michael, help me. To visit the Master's retreats, simply ask Archangel Michael to take you to Morya's retreat in Darjeeling prior to going to sleep. Experiment for 7 nights and note your experiences, whether vivid or symbolic. Even if you only recall a feeling or a symbolic dream, the experience remains significant. Thank you for joining today's discussion. Until next week, keep an open mind, a generous heart, and a powerful spirit.
Thank you for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this message, please subscribe and share. Until next time, be blessed and keep shining your light.